Today on Community Watch, we'll be talking about the Fairview Brown School and Restoration Project in Cave Spring. It'll be a fascinating show. Stay with us. We'll begin right after this.
That's low. That's low. That's low and below. Look, he's blushing. Seriously.
Welcome to Community Watch. Lisa Smith.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me today. This is so exciting.
Well, we appreciate you sitting in for Greg this week. Greg is involved with his robotics team, and it was very kind of you to take a break from running Rome in Floyd County to do TV with us.
I'm so honored that you ask and that you actually think that's what I do.
I have seen you work, so
Yes.
I know. But it's great. So it's great to see you. Great to have
Well,
you here.
thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
And we're talking about something pretty important today.
Very important.
The Fairview Brown School, which we'll learn a good bit more about today. But the restoration project that Joyce Purdue Smith's been working on there has made just tremendous progress, and it should already be, but it is going to be something that the city and county are going to be tremendously proud of.
It is really going to add to the incredible history, the culture of our area, and it's going to be a tourism opportunity as well as an educational opportunity, and to also continue to tell the story of that incredibly educationally rich community of Cave Spring.
So it's a show you don't want to miss. You'll learn a lot today, and should be an entertaining show as well. So we'll be back with our guests right after this. Don't go away.
My college offers classes that meet my educational and career goals.
With opportunities outside the classroom.
Where the faculty know me by name.
My college can prepare me for my career.
I can earn an associate's degree and transfer credits toward my bachelor's.
My college is a state college within the university system of Georgia.
My college is affordable.
It's close to home.
My college has online opportunities.
It's where excellence begins.
We are
GHC, Georgia Highlands College.
Welcome back to Community Watch. We're very happy to have with us today Bob Troy and Joyce Purdue Smith. Welcome.
Thank you. We are delighted.
Yeah.
All right, Joyce. So you have actually been on the show at least I want to say a couple of times at least to talk about this project in various stages of its development. You've been at this for quite a while.
Oh, I have.
Yes,
Sometimes I have to do my double-digit subtraction to remember the number of years, but we really have been at it about 8 years now.
Yeah.
About 8 years now. Founded back in 2009. Didn't know what we had.
Well, let's talk about that because I know a lot of people are aware of the school and what it represents and the project itself, but there are many people perhaps that do not know about it. So let's catch them up.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll tell the historical side of the story first.
Okay.
I think most people, if you remember your history from high school and maybe perhaps elementary school, you'll remember a man by the name of Booker T. Washington. back in the late 1800s. He was a slave. He wound up getting an education, and he wound up founding an institution in Tuskegee, Alabama, and was Tuskegee Institute. And his goal in life was to try and to gather in a community of students to learn how to sustain themselves through acquiring an education. And so as a part of that, one of the things that he was preparing to go out into the rural areas was teachers. And these teachers were going into places that were really pretty much undesirable. You know, some of them may have had, you know, a nice church building to work from to teach, and others, you know, just in other places. And so he decided that he needed to do something to remedy that situation. After touring the country for several years, he met a very generous man by the name of Julius Rosenwald, who was the CEO of Sears and Roebuck out of the Chicago area. Julius was of foreign descent, and he came to America with his family. They were in the clothing industry, and he would wind up being the CEO of Sears and Roebuck. So Julius Rosenwald went to Tuskegee, fell in love with the concept there of teaching kids the concept of being sustainable through crafts and that sort of thing. He fell very deeply in love with the opportunity to educate students, African American students around the South. And so between the two men, Booker T. Washington and Julius Rosenwald, they would form a foundation called the Rosenwald Foundation that would seed 5,300 schools around the South in the 16 southern states. And they did
how
that.
many?
5,300.
That's quite a few.
A staggering number, a staggering number. And it's been said that he spent somewhere around $62 million investing of his own money and funds for the effort. Now, I will tell you, Julius didn't fund these schools all on his own. It was a challenge to the African American community as well as to the local community to match the funding for the schools. So he didn't fund 100% of these projects, and it was good that he did. Everybody was invested.
So, 5,300 schools, and I know one of those schools was the school in Cave Spring.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious, and I know you have done a good bit of research of this. I'm just curious how they determined where these schools would go.
Well, the schools themselves were primarily run by the local school boards. And the school board, especially the Floyd County School Board, knew of the Rosenwald Foundation and this opportunity, and they reached out, made application, and were accepted by the Rosenwald Foundation. So typically it had to be a school board that was well aware of the situation and wanted a school and wanted to do something about the educational opportunity for the kids.
Because I think I know it's the case in the school at Cave Spring that there had to be community investment as well.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct about that. If I can remember or recall from some of the older citizens of Cave Spring, the original school in Cave Spring for African Americans at that point in time burned. And they were holding church inside of the Methodist Church, Cosmopolitan United Methodist Church. They were holding school inside that particular church. And I think the county at that point in time must have decided that they needed to do something more in terms of providing a building. And so they reached out to the Rosenwald Fund and received funding, and the community had to provide a percentage, and the African American community had to provide a percentage of the funding to match the Rosenwald Foundation's gesture.
One of the things that we have to remember about the bad old days of segregation, it was never separate but equal. It was separate and nothing. There was no education for African American kids at all.
And that little particular school, somewhere I read, I don't know if an alumni told me, it was really the pride and joy of the African American community. Everything kind of revolved around the school, all the church activities. This particular school was also associated with the Prince Hall Mason Lodge Hall, and so they were real proud about that Lodge Hall, and everybody just kind of circled around the school and supported the school in whatever way that they could.
And what year did the school operate?
Okay, the school opened in 1924, and it closed in 1954, and so that was about 30 years, and that occurred because of the laws to desegregate.
And so after that, the school sat empty.
The school sat empty until we found it in 2009, so it was about 60 years. And it's amazing that it was still there. The original campus was consisted of 4 buildings, and the only remaining building is the first grade school building, and we are so proud of that little building because that's the one that we have left. And I always find it so interesting that it's the first grade building that was left, because that is the grade in the year I think everybody across America can remember their experiences in first grade, their teachers and that sort of thing. So amazingly, that's the one that's left.
So there were 4 buildings. If there was a whole building for the first grade, then what were the other buildings?
Okay, the other buildings were relegated to the high school. At one point in time, Fairview was 1st through 12th grade. In 1950, when Main High was finished, the high school kids were bused here to Rome, and so it became an elementary school, elementary middle school. So it was kind of relegated to the other grades, lower grades.
All right, so what is left is the first grade building. And when did you, I guess find it is when did you realize there was something still there? Did you always know that?
I never knew. Actually, it's a personal story, if I might share that. In 2008, my dad became ill, and I came back to the area to help my mom, and in so doing, I decided, I better get Dad's professional career documented. And I began over at the Floyd County school system to try and find any documents that I could find, because Mother had told me that he had worked for a little school in Cave Spring, and perhaps Floyd County Board of Education would have something. So in pilfering through their records, I realized that they had their minute books from their board meetings back to right after the Civil War. And it was an amazing read.
Wow.
It was an amazing read. I mean, I stayed at the Floyd County school system, I know, all summer long one summer, doing nothing but reading their minutes, taking notes, and that sort of thing. And so it was just interesting to see how the whole system came together, how things were resolved, the busing issues and attendance issues and that sort of thing. It just kind of to see the system evolve into the system that it is today. And so I read those books and didn't find all that I needed to, and so people pointed me in different directions, and my mom told me that she thought the school might perhaps be still there. And I think most people know that some of the alumni took me to a hill opposite the hill that the remaining school is on now. I went on top of that hill, and the guys kept telling me, "Don't you see it, Joyce?" And I kept saying, "No, I do not see a school there. I do not see a school." And so they continued to point, and then right as I was about to give up, there was the little twinkling of the roof. Shining out from up under the sun, from up under the kudzu, and I realized that that was a little building, and we couldn't get up to the building at that point in time because it was all covered in kudzu. So a little bit later after that, they cleared a path, and we went up and we thought, oh, what do we have? And it was just an amazing find, and it's been an ongoing adventure since then.
So buried in the kudzu.
Buried in the kudzu. I bet that's our
60
most
years.
for 60 years.
years.
Our most favorite picture is the one where it's all covered in kudzu.
Yeah.
We have a few other precious pictures. There was a chicken coop on the property. We have a picture of that chicken coop.
Because it was actually private property at this point.
It was private property. It actually was owned by Nick Chubb's dad, Henry Chubb Jr. And so we're just very proud that they had preserved it. The Chubb family, at least that lineage off of Henry, they were all in the construction business, and they owned property all over the county. And they were, like I said, they were in the construction building, and we're surmising that the other remaining buildings I know were used for as rental property at one point in time, but then it was just vacated, and nothing really occurred at the campus after that point in time. So we were just so elated that there was at least one building left that we could cherish and bring back to be a joy to the community.
So your real turning point was proving that it was a Rosenwald.
Yes, and
school.
There were so many people who led me in different directions. When we found it, we really didn't know what we had. We just knew it was a school, and through a lot of research and people sharing information, I made a contact down at the State Department of Natural Resources, which was Jeannie Syriac, and she was very much aware of the Rosenwald Initiative. I didn't know about the Rosenwald Initiative at the time. I just knew we had a school and what should we do. And as out of that conversation, she started to talk about the fact that she was looking for a school named E.S. Brown. I thought, E.S. Brown? Well, I attended E.S. Brown. And that opened up another whole conversation that the Fairview School, when it closed in 1954, was relocated to a new facility, and it was named E.S. Brown after the principal at that time.
Well, we need to take a break here. When we come back, we'll hear a lot more about the school and the plans for it now. So stay with us. We'll be back after this.
Great. I'm going to let Bob tell me.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Community Watch. We're having a conversation with Joyce Purdue Smith, who has headed up the restoration of the Fairview Brown School, which was a Rosenwald school in Cave Spring, and Bob Troy, who was on the board
of directors,
for this project. And so I know a lot has happened in these years since you discovered the building and covered in kudzu. But where are we now, and what are some of your plans for that restoration?
Okay, so after realizing that we had a little precious commodity in Cave Spring, we then began to understand how to restore an older building of this sort. And so as a part of that, we became connected to the National Trust, the Georgia Trust, and all of the different organizations that would share a common interest and a love of these old buildings. And so as a part of that, we realized that we needed to use historical preservation guidelines to restore the building. And so that has led to, I think, an evolution every year of something that needed to be completed. And we're very proud that we have been listed to the National Register of Historic Places, which is the highest honor that can be bestowed upon any property or any landmark within the United States. It means that we are equal to all the other sites across the country that are considered historically correct. We've been listed to the Georgia Register of Historic Places. We have completed our archaeological dig. A lady out of Atlanta, an archaeologist out of Atlanta, came and did an excavation of the property about 1.5 years ago. She's completed that, and she has us listed to the archaeological site for Northwest Georgia, and she's planning to use it for her dissertation as she pursues her PhD, so we're very happy about that. So just a number of things have occurred since then. The community has been extraordinarily generous in helping us to achieve this. I don't think there's anybody that I've been to ask a favor of that we can't not been answered. But as far as the school itself and our future plans, I'll let Bob elaborate on that, and I'll just chip in as I need to.
You just want to take a breath. So let me tell you first that I got involved with this project mainly through a friend of mine and a fellow synagogue member, Ira Levy, who said this was a good project because it showed how African Americans and Jews could work together, and that's what this was about in the beginning with Julius Rosenwald and Booker T. Washington. So I decided that I would increase my workday to 25 hours instead of 24. Anyway, the school it's amazing that it survived until this point. You might say that it was preserved in kudzu, as if kudzu were sent down like manna from heaven to save this school. And it's been fascinating. The idea, I think, originally was to turn this archaeological site, if you will, into something more important, something that would resonate with the youth of today and not just be another monument or another statue or another. So we've decided to, after a lot of consultation with all the people who are interested in the project into a learning center for young kids, for children of pretty much all ages, where they would come and see how their contemporaries, how children of their age were educated back in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. And also to learn some of the skills that they learned, like
pottery,
mm-hmm.
Crochet, knitting. We're partnered with the Alton Holman Heritage Foundation, and they represent the artsy part of what we're doing, and so they've been great.
Traditional crafts, mm-hmm. and also, you know, we don't know where that borderline is, but hopefully there'll be other crafts, maybe farrier, mm-hmm. horseshoeing, that kind of thing, mm-hmm. and we certainly have enough land. We have the one building right now. We know where the other ones were, so we're going to put in little farm patches, so that kids can, under instruction, learn how to do some of the things that were done by their ancestors, which, to our knowledge, has never been done here before.
Absolutely.
And it's we've gotten tremendous support mm-hmm. from local people here so far. We have a challenge grant right now for $75,000. Is it right to say that?
Yes, go right ahead. 75000.
Yeah, she forgot a zero the first time. From a local, very generous donor. So, and we're working on coming up with a match, and I think we'll do it. This town has a big heart. Mm-hmm. Whether this town has a big wallet, that's another question.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what that money is needed to accomplish. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the initial concern, I guess, is preserving the building itself.
Oh, absolutely. It's number one. It's number one on our list. Many of you may know that when we found the building, we removed all of the kudzu, but then it was a matter of stabilizing the building. And we do have some stabilization processes in place now, kind of holding it in place. But it's really high time now that the entire building be restored. And so as a part of that, we've had archaeological plans made and that sort of thing as to how to restore it. And we're in the process now of raising the remaining balance of what we need to restore the building. And the two men that he referred to is Wesley Walraven and Brian Moore. They have had such a generous heart in extending a challenge grant, a challenge pledge to us from the community to raise $100,000. And if we raise that $100,000 by August the 31st, they will match it with a $75,000 donation. And we are on a fast track since, 7 days now, trying to make that come to fruition. So we are reaching out and asking that the entire community, if you would please be so generous as to remember us at Christmas, but also if Christmas is not the time to give, then we have until August 31st to receive those monies in so that we can match Wes's generous gift.
And that that money is needed. I don't think people realize how expensive it is to restore a building. I mean, particularly one like this that, even though it is stabilized, you know, is pretty fragile.
Oh.
So it's got, you know, there's a lot of care and expertise needed to preserve something like this.
Right.
That's a really good point, John, and that's one of the challenges we face is that this is a historic site, and it has to be done to historic standards to maintain our
National Register listing.
Our listings, and which is a critical part of it. So that you make a very important point that we are all too aware of. But that's part of the deal. And we will get it done.
I think it's interesting that you're using the model that Rosenwald had
Oh, absolutely.
How,
Yes.
I mean, that's
yes.
also the other part of the full circle coming
Correct.
back,
Mhm.
is how
Absolutely.
he had everyone involved,
Involved.
everyone had a stake in the success of the story.
Correct. Because at the end of the day, it's a community project.
It is.
It is meant to augment the community, not just the community of Cave Spring, not just the community of Rome, but for entire Northwest Georgia. And we would like to think that one day it would be able to support, a statewide program for field trips for children, as well as to promote tourism in the area. So we're well abreast of that, and we have several different sites in mind as to what we envision the campus finally looking like, its appearance and that sort of thing, but we're not at that point now. What we're trying to do now is just to get the building redone and remodeled, and according to, as Bob said, according to nationally accepted guidelines for historic preservation.
Now, I remember being told, I can't remember on which occasion, but is it not true that there were 5,300 schools initially?
Correct.
There really are not many left at all.
Very few left. I don't know the statistics now for all 16 schools, 16 states, but within the state of Georgia, there were right around 260 Rosenwald schools in the state of Georgia. One is just outside of Cartersville. There's one in Ackworth, and one up near Hiram. And so those schools were restored some time ago when the Lowe's Corporation was giving grants to schools. Well, that fund has now been depleted, and so the schools that are remaining in Georgia, and out of the 260, 51 have been identified. And I am so proud to say that it's predicted that we will be the next school to be completed. And so we are really fighting the calendar and the clock to make sure that we are one of the ones that's completed on time, the next school.
But it's important, I think, to know that the school and the project and the campus area that you hope to develop eventually has not just area significance, but national significance.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's so few of these schools remaining.
Oh, absolutely. These things have a stage. At one point in time, the Rosenwald Foundation was the top priority for the National Trust. And since that time, over a period of time, since it has not been funded, the office has closed, and so now it has been left to the states to assure that these schools are restored. And so from a national perspective, people are aware of the Rosenwald family. They're very well known and support the National Trust on an annual basis at their National Trust conventions. And so we're still on the stage, and we just want to take a part of that stage to show what we have in Cave Spring and to share that.
Well, we're coming up on a break here. When we come back, we want to share contact information so folks can know how to make donations to help with this project. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Thank you for that. See how two heads are better than you.
Okay. All right, we're back on. All right, welcome back to Community Watch. I know folks who are listening to the show want to know how to donate. So where do they contact you, or how do they do that?
First of all, I'm going to be brave and give you my cell phone number.
Okay.
It is 404-759-3918.
Okay.
Okay. 404-759-3918.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being with us on Community Watch. We'll see you next time.